Thanks for tuning in to the Just Go Play podcast, where we look to develop and promote a positive youth sports experience. As always, we are available for speaking and private engagements and can be reached at info@justgoplay.ca. You can also catch full video versions of our podcast on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to visit us at justgoplay.ca. Enjoy the episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Just Go Play podcast. I'm your host, Coach D, also known as Daryl Devonish. I'm here with my great guest, Taryn Lipschitz. And we got a real special guest on today. And I know you guys are saying, you always say that, dude. But this time, I really mean it. I've been hearing about this guy probably for the last 6 months. And he's done some great things in this space. We're talking about Heath Eslinger. And he is in charge of a Better Way Athletics. He's got a parent program. Like, he works with organizations. Like, this guy, he's going to change the way we move. And again, I've been joking lately, talking about this is not a program, this is a movement. Well, This guy today is going to deliver a movement. Heath, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, great. Thanks so much. I've heard about you guys as well, and I'm super excited to be on the show today and partnering with you guys to make a difference in this journey we call sport.
I love it. We are so happy to have you too. So just so we can get our audience to get a little bit of your backstory, can you share why you're at the front of the room today, how you got to this place, and why you're going to take this movement to the next level, and how?
Well, I think the foundation of it starts with my own parents. And I think it's one of the reasons why I'm passionate about parenting is because I see the impact it had on my own personal life. You know, my brother and I are both first generation college kids. My brother is Dr. Chad Eslinger. They called me Coach Eslinger. My wife often says she married the wrong Eslinger. My sister-in-law married the money and she married the muscles. I've lost all my muscles and my brother keeps printing the money. And so, but my parents just laid a very healthy foundation for us as kids. Really, I don't even know that it was like something they wrote on paper, but just were very intentional about focusing on the things that mattered most, and giving us the tools to be successful, to figure things out, to create independence. And so I think that's really where it started for me and what made me passionate about it. And then about 7 years ago, I heard a statistic from a research study done back in the late 1980s, early 1990s. And the study discovered this, that the longer a kid is in organized sport today. You ready for this, Daryl? I don't know if you're ready for this.
Well, I got I'm ready to write this down.
Taryn's ready. I don't know if Coach D's ready, but
I'm ready to write this down.
All right. So the longer a kid is in organized sport, the less likely they are to make a good moral decision. So the longer a kid is involved in this thing we call sport, the less likely they are to make a good moral decision. And no joke, I can remember when I heard it, first of all, I didn't want to believe it. And then I started playing all these like scenes in my mind of little league events, youth sports, you know, middle school. But then I'm going, yeah, it's probably right, man. These parents are crazy. The coaches are acting like nuts. You know what I mean? The kids are getting no guidance when it comes to character and things like that. And so it really stopped me and one of my partners in our tracks. And that day, here's what I said. I was coaching wrestling at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. I was Division I head coach. On that day, here's what I said. I'm either going to be a part of the problem by doing nothing, or I'm going to be a part of the solution by doing something. And I don't know what it is yet, but I'm all in doing something. And so it really catapulted us on this journey to uncover, hey, how can we help parents? There's a lot of talk about helping coaches, but here's what I've learned. And Coach D, you know, you have children yourself. I'm playing zone. You're still man to man. So you're kind of soft,
Yeah,
but
I love it.
At the end of the day, like, this parenting thing is tough and it's difficult. And sometimes, you know, you can get sucked into some things that maybe aren't best. And so we really just we're on this journey to help parents navigate raising their kids, really, when it comes to the sport world in general.
I love it. Oh my God. You couldn't have said that. I feel like we could go home now. I've gotten enough out of this, but
we're not going home yet, Daryl.
This journey is just starting. I feel this journey is just starting.
Yes.
My problem big time was
I was a coach, but when I became a parent of a kid that was playing, I switched. I started becoming like that parent that was like, come on, I don't think you're giving them good effort today. And I was like, I had to catch myself. And thank God for Matt, who let me know how I was behaving. I changed my ways.
Yeah.
So this is so important. This is so important because even if you think that would never be me, well, that was me. I was ruining my kid's sports experience because it was about me. It wasn't about him. It was about him. It was about me. Sorry. So
I often say this: when you continually say, "I'm not that guy," you're probably that guy.
You're that guy. I was that guy.
Yeah.
So how did a better way come together? How did it come together?
Really, it really started with like a bunch of morning conversations on my way to work with our other partner, Eric Phillips, who was a high school athletic director, longtime high school coach. He's a parent of 2 Division I athletes, 2 different sports, male and female. So, I mean, he must have done some things right. But, it really started with just these morning conversations of like, okay, so what's the prescription? Everyone can identify the problem. I can always call the better play once I know the outcome of the previous play. And so everyone's identifying the problem, but what is a prescription we can offer to help alleviate the problem? I mean, if I go, the worst thing to do is go to the doctor and they're like, oh yeah, you just got a virus. You know what I mean? Which really means, toughen up, buttercup. You're just going to have to get through it. But I want medicine. Like, give me something that's going to make me feel better in the next day or two, because I don't like being down for the count. And so in the sports world, everyone is talking about this issue. No joke, about 5 years ago, I was doing a coaching clinic, had 500 coaches in there. We did an interactive PowerPoint with a group out of Nashville called the Nashville Coaches Coalition. Great organization. And in this interactive PowerPoint, we asked, hey, what's the one thing you dread about coaching this year? Coach D, out of 500 coaches, not only was it the most common answer, it was the only answer given was parents. And so I remember back to sitting on that front row because I was getting ready to present, and I was literally in the floor laughing, but then in my heart, I was kind of hurting. Like, our greatest asset is the parents, yet they have become such an enemy of us. We're not even utilizing them the right way. We actually despise them. And so again, we begin to have those conversations. What would it look like to engage the parent and start a healthy conversation that offered a prescription to help them navigate the sport journey?
So smart. So smart. And you're right. Like, I remember coaching, like sports in the community, and when I was a school teacher, when I was a school teacher coaching basketball and soccer, I didn't have to deal with parents. I loved it. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was what the real coaching, until I stepped out of the community, and then I started doing these sports where people were paying me dollars, and then they thought they had an input. They could control the narrative.
All right.
So,
hey, quick sidebar.
Am I jumping too far ahead?
No. But quick sidebar here. You use this term because they were paying money. They thought they had input. Here's what I want to say to any of our listeners today. When you are coaching, and the sport world is different today because there is more money involved. But when you have a family's 2 most prized possessions, which is their money and their children, they have input. Now, the goal is, how do we teach them what the input should be and when it should be delivered? Because when you are asking for big dollars, big time, and you have their most prized possession, whether you like it or not, you've already given them input, because you're drawing from their debit card or their credit card or their bank account. Right. And so that's where we set out to go, hey, let's quit looking at it like they don't have input. Yes, they do. Whether you like it or not, they have input. So let's do this. Let's invite them on the journey. Let's put them in the boat with us. Let's just make sure we tell them where to sit and what their role is. Because right now what's happening is it's just we're throwing paint on the wall, and it's chaos, and chaos is not good for anyone involved.
I love that so much, Heath. I think it's so important.
Yes.
It's so important. And I'd love for you to explain too to the audience, because I know what a better way it is. I know what you guys are doing. Can you, in 1 or 2 sentences, explain how you've now brought the parents in and what you guys offer to help them be part of the process, and like you said, sort of work with their prized possessions to make sure that they feel engaged?
Well, we would all say this: sports an arena for growth, and that's what we believe. It's an arena for growth. Here's the question, though: what are you growing? You know what I mean? Because you can be growing a lot of bad stuff too. I mean, if the longer a kid's in organized sport, the less likely they are to make a good moral decision. It's obviously an arena for growth. We're just growing all the bad things. And so how do we change that? How do we cultivate the garden and plant the things that actually will help the child be successful no matter what they're doing in life? We call those long haul attributes. And we do that by providing a playbook for parents to create a positive sport experience. I mean, I can remember, and Coach D, you probably remember this, when I had my first kid and you put that little tiny thing in the car seat and you're like, dude, I don't even know how to put this thing in the car. I mean, and they'll send like a nurse out with you and it's like, I'm about to drive home with this like heartbeat in the back of I mean, it's nerve wracking. And so the reality of it is there's really no playbook out there to help a parent create a positive sport experience. The playbook is this: hey, let's hope your kid's a professional athlete one day. And we all know that's a horrible playbook because the last chapter for 98% of people says this: disappointed, game over. And so how do we rewrite that playbook so that the last chapter says this: fulfilled, healthy, active, respectful, and have integrity, all these different things. And so we just had to change. We have to change the narrative there. And so what does A Better Way do? We provide a playbook for a positive sport experience.
I love that. I love that quote. Sports is an arena for growth. And I also love that, again, you painted that visual so, like, I remember that day putting my kid in the car.
Oh, dude.
And like you said, I thought I had one job from that minute they put my little guy Damon in the car. I said, I just got to keep this guy alive. I didn't have expectations. I just got to keep him alive.
Yes.
And the thing is, with the parents now, you're right. There is no playbook. And especially if it's their first one, they've never been there. They never dealt with a coach. This is not how they were coached.
Yes.
This was not like their experience.
Yes.
So that leads me to this question. What's the biggest obstacle to getting your information in front of families? Like, they need this. They need this.
All right. So I'm gonna give you a personal obstacle, an internal obstacle. Then I'm going to give you a professional obstacle. And so the internal obstacle is this, and it's us. It's you and I. It's us on this call. It's Heath Eslinger, because I'm a human and I'm just flawed and I got issues. And if you need to know what those are, just look my wife up on social media. Yeah. She'll tell you. But the reality of it is this: is that I have yet to meet a parent, Coach D and Taryn. I've yet to meet a parent that did not think that what we're offering is super crucial. Here's what's sad, though. I've also never met a parent who thought it was them. And so everyone knows it's needed, but no one is willing to look in the mirror long enough to realize they need to make some adjustments themselves. And so I have a great mentor in my life, and he always says this. He says, you can never be a tour guide to a land you're unwilling to visit yourself. And so what we have to do through A Better Way and through providing this playbook for this positive sport experience, what we try to do through our engagement with that parent, not curriculum, not education, just through conversation, inviting them on this journey, we want to put a mirror in front of them and allow them to see, hey, it's not intentional and you're not a bad person, but this thing we call sport will suck you in and cause you to make some really bad decisions. And it's going to have very unfortunate effects on your child. And so we place that mirror in front of them and we help them see, hey, if we'll just move the needle just a little, hey, 10 years down the road, it changes the direction drastically. And so that's what we have to help them do. And so that's the personal deal. No one thinks it's them, which is hard. I don't like admitting my faults either.
I agree. You'll get this. Hey, I know a couple parents on my team that need this.
Dude.
Wait a minute, dude. You need it too.
Yes. And even coaches will say, these parents are crazy. And then I see that same coach at a little league event with their kid and they're that parent. I'm like, okay, here, and so, everyone needs, listen, Heath Eslinger material, and I still have to check myself. You know why? Because I'm a human and I love my kids. You know,
100%,
a
100%.
huge investment. And so what we call it, Coach D, is we call it this, a misapplication of love. The parents love their kids so much that they begin to do things that they think is helpful, but they end up being detrimental. So that's the personal issue. All right. Here's the professional issue. We got to have help, man. I mean, listen, the harvest is big. The workers are few right now. So we have to, a better way athletics has to put people in the space so we can tell our story and get people the help that they need. And so, again, we've teamed up with some great organizations like FSQ to help us create some, energy and movement in these ways. Obviously, we've gotten connected with people like you that will help us get our message out. And again, like you said earlier, as we began, this is not about creating a silo. Listen, this is about taking the grain that's in the silo and feeding the people that need the help. Hey, it might be somebody calling right now needing our help.
That was somebody.
Yeah, tell them, hey.
Heath, I think that's so important. I think, you and Daryl, both from a personal and professional perspective, can look at this and say, I've been that parent, and I'm so fortunate I had someone who was that voice in the back of my head and said, you need to check yourself and reprioritize, because it really is about your kids and their growth and supporting that. And, the reality is most kids don't become professional athletes, but the benefits of being in sports and staying active for life are so important. And we talk about the 5 C's all the time and how sports help you build confidence and connection and character and culture in life. I'd love to hear from you. Do you have one example when you were as a Div 1 coach where kids came to you and you saw them trying to pull their parents into the conversation, or maybe it helped you kind of kickstart really founding a better way and building it? Do you have one moment that really stands out to you?
Man, I wish I could say I only have one moment. And I was very fortunate, man. I had some unbelievable parents, and a lot of times parent issues, a lack of communication from the coach. I feel like I did a great job of communicating with our parents, and it alleviated some of those things. Instead of putting out bonfires, we were preventing them on the front end. And so that's the goal, is you're always going to have some fires. It's life, but let's make them as small and less frequent as we can. And so, I can remember this. We did with a thing with our team one day on focus. Okay. Because focus is really the removal of distractions. And you'll hear a coach say all the time, you just need to focus. Well, that's like Coach D yelling at me and saying, Heath, I need you to do my taxes. Well, listen, man, that's great. You can even cuss at me and yell at me, but dude, I'm not an accountant. I don't know. I don't even know where to start. And it's like, I can have great intentions, but I don't know how. And so what we say to a kid is, and we'll say it to an 8-year-old, it blows me away. We'll tell an 8-year-old, you need to give great effort. You need to, I'm like, no, just run around and be an idiot. Just move, like, why are we expecting of an 8-year-old what we didn't even figure out until we were 20? That's just, it's crazy. I mean, that's why we're ruining kids at an early age when it comes to sport. And that's why I'm not a huge fan of organized sport early. And so but it was this, is when about focus, here's what I ask. Hey, what's the biggest distraction for you on the sport journey? Parents. I want you to know these were unbelievable, well-intended, informed, intellectual, great people. But because they cared so much about their kid, they didn't know how to get out of the way. And the night before a competition, hey, Daryl, how you feel, man? You feel good? Who you got? This, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, listen, the kid felt great, but you ask him how he felt so much, now he feels sick, And so, like, the parents, not on purpose, were getting in the way of so many things that the kid could actually figure out themselves. And so that's kind of a broad deal. Here's the other thing, and Taryn, you've heard us say this before, is the other thing I saw at that Division I level was this, is that there were so many kids with gifts and skills. You better get your pen out, Daryl. Hey, all right. Hey, there's so many kids today with gifts and skills because we've put such an emphasis on that. And because of this thing called the World Wide Web, you have access to it, and everyone's comparing themselves to everyone. So it's like, I got to get my kid hitting lessons at 8, but kids today have gifts and skills that get them to a room that their character won't allow them to stay. And so our mission so here's my goal as a parent. I have 4 kids. Hey, give your kid the character that whatever room, their genetics, intellect, whatever, get them to, they could stay. My brother and I are first generation college kids. He has 11 pediatric offices right now. He's a dentist. He's crushing it. All right. His backdrops usually look kind of like Matt's: cool lake, wakeboard boat, all these different things, big dog. I'm just the little brother. But the character that my parents cultivated allowed him to succeed in a room with a lot of gifted people. I chose the athletic route. The character they provided allowed me to succeed in a room with a lot of gifted people. Here's what I would tell parents. Man, it's really hard to make your kid faster. Look at the research, man. Speed is hard to adjust. All right. If they're slow, it's probably because they picked their parents wrong. If they're fast, it's probably because they picked their parents right. Here's the thing you can't control as a parent. I can cultivate their character in such a way that will allow them to stay in a room that most people don't even think they can navigate. We call that the overachiever. All right. Everyone wants to coach the overachiever. Man, I never thought that kid could play there. There's a kid playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. His name's Alex Highsmith. He played at UNC Charlotte. Their head football coach, a great friend of mine. Alex Highsmith was a school start walk-on. Didn't even get to try out in the summer. Got drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, already making plays. When I asked his coach, tell me about Alex Highsmith, he didn't say he's fast, he's strong, all these things. Hey, he's a people pleaser. He's a great listener. He's super coachable. His character is above reproach. Listen, if you want your kid to have a chance, cultivate the right things, you'll give them a chance. That's a long answer.
Wow. Your parents did a good job with you, man.
I'm so grateful, man.
I feel like they handed you the script for this program.
And what's crazy is I don't even think they just didn't get caught. Here's the thing. They just didn't get caught up in crap that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? They just, I said this today, like someone had said something, this guy on Twitter or something. And I get so like intrigued talking about this. You can tell I want to stand up and like start knowing.
I can feel the passion. It's pouring through you.
Yeah. But the reality of we're just using the wrong scorecard. And it's what I love about Quality Sport Hub and the things you guys are doing, that sheet that maps out 0 to 6, 6 to 9, 9 to 12. Like we've got to change the scorecard. And so one of the first things we teach at A Better Way is don't get so consumed with what matters now, you lose sight of what matters most. I mean, if your goal is 7-year-old Little League, you better freaking go hard at 6. But if your goal is 7-year-old Little League, you're not being a parent. You're being a pimp. All right. And I call that sport prostitution, and the parents have become the pimp. And so like the reality of it is that doesn't need to be our goal. And so what we do is we zoom out, we have better perspective, and we go, hey, we don't have to rush this. Because it's at 14 or 15 where they really need a coach in their life. My son's 9. He thinks I'm an Olympic champ. He thinks I'm the greatest thing. He thinks I can beat anyone in the world in wrestling. All right. He'll soon find out that's not the case. But the reality of it is at 9, I'm still like everything. At 14, my daughters, I need coaches now, man. I need backup, reinforcement. But the sport world is set up as such where from 6 to 12, we go so hard. At 13, they're walking away. When they need a coach, they're done with it. And so how do we keep them hungry for that time in their life when they need that influence and impact and mentor?
Wow. So that leads into the next question. What do you think the parent's role is in this system? What do you think it really is, their role?
I love what Mike Matheny, I don't know if you know Mike Matheny. He's got a book called The Matheny Manifesto. Mike Matheny, he's the manager. Maybe it's even at Toronto right now. But Mike Matheny played professionally for the St. Louis Cardinals, was their manager for a while, took them to a World Series, started a youth baseball group. And so he wrote this book called The Matheny Manifesto about kind of youth sport. And one of the things Mike Matheny says is he says, parents need to be a silent voice of encouragement. And so we are so involved because we are so afraid. We are so afraid of our kids getting behind. And so Coach D, one of the number one questions I get from parents, hey, when do you think my kid should start? I'm like, that's the wrong question. I don't know when they should start, I probably think between 10 and 12, honestly, is when we should get introduced to organized sport. Everything before then should just be movement oriented. But the question, I don't ask the question, hey, when should my kids start? Here's the question I got to ask. Who do I want them to be when they finish? And so it's more about who they are becoming, not what they are doing or achieving. And so when I shift my focus there, it's almost like I'm liberated, man. I don't feel the pressure. Like the fact that we didn't get our kid lessons at 9 years old doesn't make me a non-caring parent. It may make me the best parent on the planet. All right. Because I actually let my kid figure things out. And so I think, one, they got to be a silent voice of encouragement. Here's the other thing. I think they have to focus on what I call long haul attributes. Like long haul attributes they stand the test of time and they cross all boundaries. So whether you become a doctor, a coach, a lawyer, an attorney, a social media director, whatever, those characteristics will stand the test of time and cross all boundaries. All right. But we just don't talk about them enough. We talk about, hey, my son made the 8-year-old all-star teams. You know, it's like Happy Gilmore, gold jacket, green jacket, who gives a rip? Like nobody cares.
Wow, that's a finite mindset there when they're just worried about their 8-year-old son's accomplishments right now. I love that you took it to the long haul and who they are going to become. Like that's what parents need to really hear. That's their role. Focus on who you want your kid to become.
Yes.
And it will change, I guess, your outlook, your perspective, as you said, on how you approach the game or sports.
So even like I just wrote an article this week on, hey, how to manage unmet expectations. Like your kid got cut, they didn't make a certain team, whatever. And so I wrote this article. I was just on my mind. So I just wrote it out there. I need some awesome social media person like Taryn to help me disseminate this information. But you know, one of the things with parents, I always say, when you're in those tough moments, and you're hurting, man. Like no one likes watching their 8-year-old hurt. You know what I mean? But sometimes it's very healthy because an 8-year-old struggle has an 8-year-old consequence. All right. If you bail them out of that 8-year-old consequence, all right, the 20-year-old struggle has a 20-year-old consequence. You're going to be bailing them out then too. And so let them struggle a little bit. And so, but the reality of it is, so when I'm in those moments, here's what I stop and ask, hey, is this hurting who they're becoming, or could it actually be helping who they're becoming? And so what it allows me to do is it allows me to pull that pressure release valve on my heart and let them walk through these things, because it probably is good for them to walk through them. Not easy.
No, I use similar kind of mentality there. I say sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
That's right.
Is that relating to what you're saying right now?
Absolutely. Every moment is an opportunity for a parent to cultivate either the good that's going to grow in that garden or the ugly that's going to grow in that garden. And when they get in that car and you start making excuses, blaming, pointing fingers, whatever, you're planting all the wrong seeds.
Wow. T, you got one for him?
Oh yeah, Heath, it's so incredible because I think the way you break it down and you explain to parents that they really need to come in and help their kids learn these lessons and sort of step back and give them the tools to grow and build their own garden. I would love, I know we have a ton of questions, but one thing I would love to understand is, what is one thing that parents could do right now, change the language on one little thing that will just start to make that little bit of an impact?
I actually wrote something down earlier because I was looking at that and we kind of just talked about. And so one of the things I would say is always talk, again, we're reiterating it, but like with your kid, hey, I love who you're becoming. And as a parent, begin to, you can't manage what you don't measure, but if you're measuring it, you better make sure you're rewarding the right things. And so one of the things I always do with my kids is when I watch a game, I always try to pick out the intrinsic. All right. Everyone, listen, their coach is going to keep the stats. I never look at my daughter's huddle account. I'm like, listen, dude, I don't care about your highlights. I care about who you are, and if I focus on that, you'll have some highlights. I mean, probably more than we could anticipate. But so even the other day, true story, Heath Eslinger household, my daughter, she's like done really well in volleyball. And so, hey, it's great, but we don't that stuff on Facebook and things like that. It's like, one, because most people don't care about our kid and if they're good at sports. All right. And so for all of you out there that do that, constantly stop, because it's kind of annoying. All right. But the reality of it is this. We were at church a few weeks ago, and there was a kid who didn't have, they just didn't have anyone to sit with, really. It's kind of a unique situation. And my daughter says, hey, Dad, I'm going to go sit with her. And I told her, like 3 nights later, we're driving down the road. I get like emotional talking about it. I said, hey, I want you to know, like, you've accomplished all these things, and I'm so dang proud of you. But the thing I'm most proud of you is that you empathized with that person. And like that, you know, like those things are there. We just have to be aware of them so that we can cultivate them and reward them. Because if the only thing we praise touchdowns and playing time and performance, even academically, man, this is an issue academically. I mean, I know parents that like, man, they're putting so much pressure on their kids' ACT score. It's ridiculous. I'm like, I know plenty of people that made a 32 and they're not succeeding in life because they have no social skills, you know, and I know guys that have made 21s that are crushing it. And so like really managing, measuring, and rewarding those things that matter in a child's life.
I love that so much. And I think it's so important. You know, we don't look at kids and say, I'm so thankful and grateful and appreciate these small things you do to just be a good human to other people.
Yes.
And I love that. And I think the last thing that I really want to know, Heath, is you guys have really looked at the industry and said, parents have such a vital role. How can we engage them and help them, you know, cultivate a great garden for their kids? If we take a step back and look at the larger industry, what do you think is something that the whole system could really start doing to turn that around and, you know, engage? You've got the parents, you've got the coaches, you've got the organizations, you've got schools, you've got Parks and Rec. What to you is one thing that at a larger scale we could start to do to turn, you know, the ship around?
Well, again, I think we got to change the scorecard for what we're doing in sports. Like, I mean, I don't think we should even keep score till a kid's 12 years old. You know what I mean? Now they're going to keep score, fine. All right. But listen, I always say scoreboards don't create competitive kids. They create crazy adults. You know what I mean? They do not create competitive kids. Like we're keeping score more than we ever have. And here's what I hear at the highest levels. Man, kids today just aren't competitive. Here's why. Because they do it so much, they're operating at a subpar level. The Olympics were every 4 years. Dude, you can't bring your A game 300 days a year, especially when you're 9. And so it's like an unfair expectation. And so, you know, I think one, we got to change the scorecard on sports. And then two, I think we have to intentionally engage the parents. And then we have to intentionally equip and energize the coaches. When I resigned at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, my boss or my sports supervisor, Dr. Jay Blackman, unbelievable friend to this day. I'm so fortunate I got out with my friends. He said, Heath, why are you so passionate about this? I said, Jay, I got 2 head coaching jobs. All right. High school head coaching job. They told me good luck. I said, I got a Division I head coaching job. You were on the hiring committee. Y'all pretty much told me good luck. Figure it out. Here's what we have today. We have people that are fully capable, but they're either ill-equipped or exhausted. And so if we can provide tools and we can energize people, we can change the landscape. But that's going to take some intentionality, and it's not going to happen overnight. And it's why I love the work that Quality Sport Hub, that FSQ, that the Community Revitalization, all of you guys are doing. Like, it's why I want to be in the space with you, bumping into one another, because Heath Eslinger and A Better Way Athletics, we cannot do it. We have to have help. But if we can create momentum, if we can create a tsunami, a movement of a positive sport experience, restoring the joy of sport, if we can create a tsunami of that, dude, we can do some positive damage.
I'm just sitting here listening, smiling, because you're a part of this talk. Like, we've been talking about this stuff for years, and we kind of at one time I thought, man, we're the only guys that talk about this stuff in the, you know, the just cause and the long-term quality sport. I feel like you've been on our journey with us the whole time, just in another place, talking the same language.
I love it. I know.
I got a question about the course, like this
Okay.
parent course, because, you know, I'm right after this, I'm about to tell people, you got to take this course, because after meeting you, I was going to do it anyway, but now I got to really do it. Can you tell us a little bit about the course?
So the course is called How to Maximize Your Child's Athletic Journey. And it's not, listen, this isn't one course deal. Again, you don't create a movement by rolling the snowball once. You know, you got to keep moving that thing, and it takes time and energy, and you got to call some audibles, and we're going to learn and grow. And so, I mean, if you're out there listening, in no way, shape, or form do we think we just have it figured out. Here's what we do know. What we're doing is not working. And so we have to be willing to make an adjustment. And that's why it's a better way, because this isn't the only way. I don't even it's the best way. I'm not God. I'm just a human on the journey, you know? And so, but I do think we can do things a better way. We're always pivoting and looking at ourselves in the mirror and making adjustments. And so the course, How to Maximize Your Child's Athletic Journey, really, we just identified like some of the red flags in the sport world, the importance of perspective, you know, the value of struggle. We live in this society today. It's like, we got to teach kids to fail. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. All right. Our society is failing at an epic rate. All right. Kids today will fail at the first sign of difficulty. So here's the thing about failure. Failure in a period or an exclamation mark sometimes. Struggle ends with a comma. I can remember watching shows when I was a kid, back before DVR, you know, and the show would go off and it'd say to be continued. And you were like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like, and so like the thing about struggle is there's this to be continued. And so what I say and what we try to teach parents is quit. Like, that's great jargon. Like, it sounds cool. We're going to teach kids to fail. Like, yeah, okay. Like, I've never failed and enjoyed it, you know? But like the reality of it is we have to allow, not even teach kids, because life will present it. Sports will present it. School will present it. Friendships will present it. Marriage will present it. Parenting will present it. It will present opportunities to struggle. We have to allow it. And again, it's why it's better when you allow it early, because a 6-year-old struggle has a 6-year-old consequence. And so how do we allow people to struggle, or how do we allow our children to struggle? And man, it takes some discipline, because when you're watching that little 8-year-old girl like cry and you want to rescue her because you love her so much and you let her walk through that, here's what you do though. You create a confidence that's unbelievable. All right. That's how you create confidence. In our sport world today, here's what we see: arrogance and entitlement on the increase because we do it all for them, confidence on the decrease. All right. If you want a kid to be confident, you got to let them figure crap out themselves. All right. That's where you gain. You don't get confidence because your dad does everything for you or your mom does everything for you. And so, you know, that's one. Value of struggle, dealing with adversity. At some point, you're going to walk through some tough stuff, you know. How to develop a team player. No parent out there is like intentionally saying, hey, I hope my 16-year-old daughter is the most selfish brat on the team and the coach hates her, you know, but we're seeing it. Almost the systems we utilize create the things we despise. And so how do we develop a team player? True story. I was at the NCAA wrestling tournament. My daughter's playing volleyball. She calls me, Coach D. Here's what I asked. How'd you play? Immediately, I was like, you're that guy. You're that guy. All you care about. And so I sat down in the hotel room, Des Moines, Iowa, and I made some notes. You got to be intentional here, Heath. You got to be intentional. And so I created 3 questions. How did the team do? Because it ain't about her. Second question, who played well on your team? I force you to praise another person, because that's a great quality. All right. Praise. And if you can praise someone, you can also receive that praise. And so we see that a lot today. People don't even know how to absorb compliments. And so then the third question was this: how'd you play? Because I love my daughter. But it was in that order. And so we have to teach parents that there's a system of doing these things. And then we walk them through like game time, pregame, postgame, and the car ride home. None of it is brain surgery. All right. I have a PE degree, man. This is not brain surgery, but it's so critically important for the mental health, the physical development, and the overall well-being of our children.
I love those 3 questions. Parents wanting to avoid their kids enduring any type of struggle. I thought that, I always say that these kids, they don't know what it was like. But then I go and protect them from, you know, all those things that happened to me. They helped shape me who I am and made me tougher and resilient.
Yes.
And I'm stealing that away from these guys because sometimes I act like that parachute dad. I'm running in front of the bullet and saying, don't take that bullet because it's going to hurt. So I totally relate to that not letting our kids struggle. And I think a lot of parents are like that. It's like, I don't want to have to go through what I went through.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I'll add one personal story too, because, you know, I'm very fortunate. My parents throughout my whole life encouraged me to stay in sports and try different sports.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while I was in karate, and, you know, I said to my mom, I'm like, I really don't want to be in karate anymore. Like I'm over it. It's getting harder. etc. And she goes, you have to stay in until you get to this point. You need to go through, see the struggles, see the challenges, and achieve that. Like, that used to be your goal. Once you get there, you can then quit, and if you want to do a different sport, go ahead. But it was good that she also showed me how to commit to something, how to follow something through, how to, when something is challenging, work through it myself. So I agree. It is great for parents to kind of take a step back. And I think what you do is so important and going to change millions of kids' experiences at a certain age now that will then, like you said, you move the needle a little bit here. Well, it's got a huge impact in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So I just think the collective impact, if we take a step back and look at that, is huge. So I'm really excited, and hopefully a lot of parents from this will see that it's their turn to kind of be part of the solution and not keep creating the same problem.
Love it.
Heath, I'm so impressed with what you've done and your program that's about to be delivered. Like, this is exactly what people need. How can people get in touch with you? Your website, your Twitter, like you sound like you're on Twitter a lot, but how can people get in touch with you?
Man, they can go to our website, just abetterwayathletics.com. We're getting ready to begin some revamp with a great partner that we're using on that, just to make it a little bit more user friendly. They can go to abetterwayathletics.com. They can follow us on Twitter. I mean, listen, it's 2020, man. It's the year of the pandemic, but it's also the World Wide Web. If you want to find somebody, you can find them. So, go to social media, look up ABW Athletics, or type in A Better Way Athletics. You can find me, Heath Eslinger. Shoot me a DM. Whether it's a governing body as big as a USA ball or the USOC, which hopefully we get to penetrate some of those markets sometime in the near future, or it's a local park and rec, or it's a university or a high school level. We have worked with people on every level. We will create a formula for you that's best for you and your people. Because no matter where you're at, whether you're coaching at the university level, you're coaching 8 and 9-year-olds, or you're coaching high school kids, here's the goal: to create a positive sport experience. That's the goal. So we're going to provide you a playbook to cultivate and create a positive sport experience. And so, man, make sure you find us, look it up. We're super passionate. We can't do this alone. For those of you that out there that are interested, we need you to partner with us so that, again, we can continue to push this momentum and create this tsunami of change.
I love it. I also understand you do some speaking engagements as well.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to do one at 12:30.
Listen, I could see it. You'd be awesome. And from your reviews, I've seen you're a great speaker. So people out there, I just want the audience to know this is quality sports coaching that we always talk about in our podcast. Like, I'm so excited to be affiliated with you, Heath, and your work. T, do you want to add to that? This guy is like, he's a superstar. Like, I'd love to have you back.
No, let's do it.
I'd love to have you back. This is not the end.
Not the end.
Definitely not the end, Heath. This is just the beginning for a lot of great things. I'm so excited for, we've got the last month of 2020 now, but 2021, I think A Better Way has amazing things coming. And like you said, you're looking for partners, for people to grow this and change the experience. And you're just one piece of that. So for any organization, team, coach, league, etc., we'll definitely reach out. We'll put you in touch. And I can't wait to see what happens with this.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. So if you're listening, please share this podcast with your friends, your parents, coaches. More people need to hear this stuff and apply this stuff, not just hear it.
That's right.
Enough talking. We got to start doing things. Thanks for coming out today, guys. Great episode. Please share. And remember, just go play.